Did you know that the high temperature in summers can cause stress? This is heat stress. In today's video, I am going to discuss how high temperature can affect normal brain functioning. But tell me in comments which is your favorite weather and why. Well, I like winter, so you are going to see a lot of bad effects of high temperature in summer. You might have noticed that even the slightest increase in temperature can cause headache, fatigue, and lack of concentration. You might even feel sleepy a lot of time. It is because during high temperatures, your body also has high sympathetic nervous system, which is body fight and flight system. This happens because your body is working hard to regulate its temperature by increasing heart rate, sweating, and blood flow to the skin. As a result, you may feel more alert and stressed, and you even end up getting less sleep. And when your sleep is disturbed, your capacity to learn and memorize is also affected. So, does that mean people living in the hot climates are less intelligent? Well, you will get to know the answer at the end of this video. But first, understand that the brain has naturally high temperature than the rest of the body because it has very high metabolic rate. Even though brain make up only 2% of your body weight, it uses around 20% of oxygen your body consumes at rest. Most of this energy is used to restore nerve cells after they send electrical signals. The brain also uses energy to support other brain cells and produce essential molecules, and all of this energy eventually turns into heat. If this heat is not removed, brain temperature can even rise about 0.1 degree Celsius per minute. The only mechanism to remove this heat is blood flow. Brain has high density of blood vessels and they pick up heat and send it to the body. That's why brain gets 15 to 20% of everything your heart pumps. It's not just for oxygen, it's also for cooling. When it's hot, your body pulls blood away from the brain and send it to your skin to cool you down. That means less glucose and oxygen reaching your brain, and less fuel means slower brain. And this is the reason you might feel lazy with slow thinking during summers. So one can think that if blood flow is reduced, less heat will be removed and brain will have high temperature. The thing is, when blood flow is reduced, less oxygen will go to the brain and less heat will be produced. So what happens to your brain when it's also hot outside? When it's hot outside, your body also has to redirect blood and energy towards cooling itself. This means less cooling capacity for the brain, and this is why heat reduces cognitive abilities. And there's actually a culprit behind this, which is a protein and is called as TRPV4. This protein is a temperature sensor and is present in hippocampus, which is a brain part, and also in other tissues. Now, we know that the hippocampus is responsible for short and long-term memory responses. Now, what this protein does, it senses heat and pain and maintains hydration. Scientists believe that the prolonged heat exposure damages this protein. Heat also triggers inflammation, which causes oxidative stress. This occurs when there are too many harmful free radicals, and brain cells such as microglia and astrocytes become active. Upon activation, they release inflammatory substances that damages neurons, thus affecting the memory. And a massive study from China proves this. They observed more than 50,000 people for at least 8 years. Once temperature crossed around 32 degrees Celsius, test scores dropped significantly. Chronic high temperature also reduces gray and white matter volume, and both are responsible for thinking and processing information. High temperature during summer also decreases your focus and attention span, and researchers found that the outdoor workers in Middle East have reduced attention span of 45% compared to the 67% of those working in shade. There's also a pattern. Researchers keep finding that heat does not hurt every mental task equally. Studies on firefighters found that the acute heat stress didn't really hurt simple tasks such as memory recall, but it surely damages complex tasks such as working memory and attention. The theory is that heat creates cognitive load in the frontal cortex. It's not that your brain stops working, but it starts competing for resources. So anything that requires real mental effort suffers first. Harvard researchers observed college students during heat wave in Boston. They compared students with AC in room and those have no air conditioning. And every single morning student took a math test right after waking up. The non-AC students end up roughly 13% slower on the reaction time with low scores. And here comes the sleep connection. For every 1 degree Celsius increase in bedroom temperature overnight, students lost nearly 3 minutes of sleep. A hotter room quickly steals your sleep and your brain power for the next day, and this gives you kind of a summer version of seasonal depression. In winters, depression is linked to the reduced serotonin, while in summer, depression occurs due to the reduced melatonin levels. Well, the next thing that I am going to tell you is that nobody might have think about heat and violence. While you might have felt aggressive during high temperature, I'm not saying this. Research also proves it. It's called the temperature aggression hypothesis, and it's been studied since 1970s. Across 7 US cities, every 5 degrees Celsius rise in daily temperature was linked to around 4% increase in sex offenses. And in Finland, over 18 years, temperature alone explained 10% of variation in violent crime. What is actually happening here? High temperature can make you stress. It is due to the high cortisol level. When heat stress keeps cortisol high for a long time, it reduces dopamine and serotonin. And we know dopamine is a happy chemical. Both chemicals also control our mood, and when they reduces, we feel stressed and low. Heat also takes a heavy toll on whole body in form of hyperthermia, where body temperature usually rises above 40 degrees Celsius. Heat exhaustion happens when you lose too much water and salt from sweating, and you end up getting dizzy, your heart races, and if that's ignored, it can turn into heat stroke, where your body's whole cooling system just gives up. And this isn't a small thing. One study found that the heat stroke can be fatal for nearly 2/3 of the people who experience it. And people who do survive can be left with permanent brain damage. Well, we all know that climate change is real, and every day we are getting close to it. Temperature is rising, and people really do not have enough resources to afford air conditioning. Poor economical conditions put people at risk of being exposed to prolonged heat, which affects sleep and daily routine. You may ask, what about people that are living in hot weather? Do they have low cognitive abilities and stressed all the time? Well, that's not true. People in Asia, Africa, and Middle East are living in extremely hot weather conditions, but they are very talented and not stressed all the time. Instead, they have some advantages. Physically, their bodies adjust a lower resting body temperature, a lower heart rate when working in heat, and more efficient sweating. People from hot regions also have different sweat gland density than people from cooler region. Their body is more adapted to heat. They sweat more, and more they sweat, the more body get to cool down, and also sweat becomes less salty. When sweat is less salty, they have more sodium for other body purposes. So basically 3 things are working together here: genetics, body's own physical adjustment, and culture and behavior like clothing choices, building design, and eating habits.